Elon Musk has just announced the arrival of a new phone that is set to destroy the entire smartphone industry and revolutionize the way we use our devices. With its cutting-edge features and sleek design, the Alpha Tesla phone promises to be a game-changer in the mobile phone industry. Best believe that this phone may wipe out competitors like Samsung and Apple. But what makes this phone so special, and how might it impact the market? Well, you're about to find out. Tesla is primarily known for its electric vehicles, energy storage solutions, and solar products. But after successfully conquering all these markets and establishing its dominance in Silicon Valley, Elon Musk has now set his eyes on taking over another tech market, the smartphone industry. Over the last 4 years, there have been many rumors about Tesla developing its own smartphone. However, none of these rumors was confirmed by the company or its CEO. Despite Elon and Tesla making no statement about their intentions, many people remain convinced that making a smartphone should be a piece of cake for a company that makes self-driving cars. But this isn't exactly the case. Yes, Tesla has a brilliant team of engineers who have transformed the automobile industry with their ingeniousness. But the designing and manufacturing of a phone is a complex process that requires significant resources and expertise that Tesla engineers probably don't have. And this is probably why Tesla has refrained from making a statement about making a phone or entering the smartphone market at all. However, in recent times, Elon Musk has come forward to announce that there is indeed a phone coming from Tesla, and he promises that it'll be the holy grail for all phones. The Tesla CEO, who has become famous for making company announcements on Twitter, once again took to the platform to reveal a few details on the futuristic smartphone his EV company is working on. In the tweet, the now richest man in the world promised that his new phone will share the same philosophy that has taken Tesla to the top of the automobile pyramid. In other words, the Tesla phone will be nothing but the best of the best and could potentially wipe out any form of competition that already exists in the smartphone market. It's a lot of promises, especially since Elon Musk is a man that's become famous for sometimes promising and failing. And while this has been a regular feature in Musk's career, another notable feature that has been a regular feature of the tech billionaire's career has been his attention to detail, proving doubters wrong and delivering products that supersede expectations. The question now is, could Elon Musk really stun the smartphone industry, and what features will this new phone have? If there's one industry that's in dire need of new competition right now, it's got to be the smartphone industry. Industry giants like Apple and Samsung have gotten very complacent in the last couple of years, and as such, they're lazily releasing the same phones every year, coupled with new brilliant branding and strategic PR to sell the phones, with only minimal upgrades. That's why when you buy a new phone, you realize there's not much difference between your old phone and your new one. For example, you'll find out that while the iPhone 14 is a great phone, there's no outstanding innovation that makes the phone way better than its predecessor, the iPhone 13. In other words, both phones are very similar in both looks and functions. This problem has become a common theme with smartphone manufacturers, as they've come to prioritize quantity over quality. However, Tesla fans will not have to worry about any of these problems with the Tesla phone. The Tesla phone, according to Musk, will be called the Tesla Model Pi, or the Model Pi for short. And it's anticipated that the Model Pi would possess a built-in feature enabling access to Starlink, which would enable users to browse the internet independently of traditional earthbound telecommunications networks. Starlink, which was established by SpaceX, is a network service that provides high-speed, low-latency broadband internet access across various markets. It uses satellites in a low orbit to enable video calls, online gaming, and streaming. And since the network is ideally created to work well in areas where connectivity is unreliable or completely unavailable, the Model Pi would be able to solve a major problem of network connectivity that other smartphones may face. Additionally, industry experts state that the Model Pi will be better integrated with Tesla's cars. This means that the phone will have easy access to controls to be connected to a Tesla car. So, with just one tap of a button, you would be able to do whatever you want with your car. For instance, you'll be able to lock and unlock the car, control the car temperature, and other various features from the comfort of your Model Pi. With all these features, you'd think that that's all the tech mogul has up his sleeves regarding the Model Pi, but there's much more. There are rumors that the Model Pi may have the capability to integrate with Neuralink, a technology that enables individuals to manipulate devices using their thoughts. In 2016, Musk co-founded Neuralink Corporation, which is currently focused on creating implantable chips for the human brain. These chips are intended to allow machines to translate the thoughts of users into actions. Musk stated on Twitter that, in his view, Neuralinks are the future, and devices such as smartwatches and phones are outdated technology. That's why it's no surprise that the tech billionaire has gone ahead and added this feature to his new phone. According to information provided by the company, this innovative technology is designed to empower individuals who may not have full use of their limbs to utilize their smartphones with ease. The implications of this technology are profound because it represents a major breakthrough in accessibility and inclusion. Imagine the possibilities that this technology could offer for those who have dexterity limitations, as they would no longer be constrained by the need to use their fingers or other limbs to navigate their smartphones. With this new advancement, they could potentially use their smartphones much more quickly and efficiently, opening up a world of new opportunities for communication, entertainment, and productivity. Overall, this technology has the potential to make a significant positive impact on the lives of those with disabilities or physical limitations, empowering them to participate more fully in the digital age, something that has always been a priority for the tech mogul. The Model Pi is also rumored to come with a solar panel attached to the back of the phone. Most of you are most likely aware that Tesla now manufactures solar panels. However, the company has now decided to equip the Model Pi with solar charging capabilities. This is not surprising, as the company's CEO Elon Musk is a big advocate for green energy, so it's no surprise that the Tesla boss is adding a solar feature to his new phone. If the company is able to successfully implement this feature to their phone with no issues, then it could be a real game changer for the smartphone industry. We all know how battery life has become one of the major problems faced in the smartphone industry. Every year, smartphone makers come with the promise of long-lasting battery life, but this is hardly the case once you start using the phone. However, having a phone where you won't have to worry about having electricity in order to power it up would change how we use smartphones forever. But that's not all. Ask yourself, what's a Tesla product without the ability to work on the red planet? You can't see it, yeah? If there's one thing that's been a constant in Elon Musk's life right now, it's his obsession with going to Mars and colonizing the red planet. As such, there's no way that the Tesla CEO will make a phone without thinking of making it the default smartphone device on the red planet. Recent reports all suggest that Musk's new phone, the Model Pi, would be able to work on Mars using Starlink connectivity. But while this sounds like a fantastic feature, we may not have to wait a little longer to see this working. During a conference held in September 2016, Mr. Musk stated that it would take anywhere from 40 to 100 years to establish a self-sustaining civilization on Mars, with a population of 1 million, and naturally those people will need to be able to use the internet. However, we believe that this feature may come later in the future. The company has also been tight-lipped about all that phone entails, but reports that the Model Pi is expected to enter the market in 2024. However, with all these capabilities, it would be silly to overlook the fact that Tesla would have to compete with other smartphones in the smartphone industry. For one, there's been a long battle of which phone is better between Samsung or Apple, a battle that will most likely still be going on for many years. But could the addition of solar charging and Neuralink give the Model Pi an edge against the likes of Samsung and Apple? While the Neuralink alone is a potential game changer that could bend the industry's knees in favor of the Model Pi, it's difficult to see how feasible this feature is or if Tesla would be able to successfully implement it to begin with. There's also a question mark around how Tesla plans to achieve attaching a solar panel to the back of the phone without the phone overheating and potentially blowing up. All these make Tesla's ambitions and Musk's confidence in his new phone very sketchy. But if there's anyone who can achieve anything against all odds, it's Elon Musk. Additionally, one of the standout features of any phone in the modern age is the camera. This is because the world is fast becoming a world of selfies and pictures, with picture taking fast becoming a very important aspect of the lives of the young generation. And as such, the best phones in the industry, such as the iPhone 14 and the Samsung S22 Ultra, are all phones with impressive cameras. In fact, many would argue that the most sought-after feature of the iPhone is the camera. With all that being said, what are Tesla's plans to capture the camera market for themselves? According to reports, it seems that Tesla has already got that covered. When compared to the 3-camera system of the iPhone, the camera setup of the Tesla Pi phone is more competitive and potentially superior. The Model Pi camera would be arranged in a single square frame containing 4 rear cameras, whereas the iPhone only has a 3-camera setup. This state-of-the-art smartphone would allow users to capture high-resolution images of the night sky simply by pointing the camera at the stars, without the need for a long exposure period. In addition to that, consumers would be able to use just one camera to take these photos. But what's a good camera without good display quality? The Tesla Pi is also capable of receiving significantly more pixels than any other smartphone currently available on the market. This means that you can enjoy your preferred movies and stream music within or outside your house without compromising quality or convenience. It's also worth noting that the average consumer spends approximately 5 hours per day engaging with media on their devices. Tesla's phone will also have a 10-inch screen that is 40% larger than the average smartphone, offering a more immersive viewing experience. But that's quite a giant phone. Its high pixel density also provides sharper image quality for both photos and videos. Additionally, the phone features a glare-free display, which makes it easier to view the screen from different angles in bright sunlight, especially if you have sensitive eyes. In recent years, we've seen Apple make significant advancements in facial identification and other sensors for their front-facing camera. However, the trademark design is not visually attractive and takes up a considerable amount of screen space, and Tesla may be seeking a solution to this issue. According to reports, the Tesla phone will feature a built-in front-facing camera that would enhance both its aesthetic appeal and long-term durability. In comparison to the iPhone 14 Pro, it has a distinctive textured matte glass on the back that can shatter if dropped, making it a nightmare to imagine an expensive phone breaking in this way. As a result, the Model Pi outperforms the iPhone 14 Pro in this aspect. Additionally, the Tesla Model Pi's best quality seekers may not have to compromise on quality, as the Model Pi is said to potentially feature a photochromic coating on its back that would enable the phone to change colors based on the way it interacts with light. This unique feature would give users a reason not to settle for anything less. To be honest, there's really no need for anyone to settle for a smartphone that doesn't offer a revolutionary experience, and that's exactly what the Model Pi is all about. The Model Pi's processor has the capability to store various types of cryptocurrencies, including the Mars cryptocurrency, which aligns with Elon Musk's vision of colonizing the Red Planet. In addition to that, Model Pi users will be able to mine their own cryptocurrency without requiring any extra hardware, since the language doesn't impose such a requirement. Conversely, Apple has been consistently enhancing its processing power with each new version, but it hasn't introduced any major breakthroughs in this area for quite some time, instead opting for minor upgrades every year. With these specs, it's safe to say that the Model Pi may become a strong competitor to other phones in the smartphone industry, and as a result, other phone manufacturers may have to fasten their seatbelts and get ready for a long, bumpy ride. No one is saying that Tesla's Model Pi would wipe out the competition, but its release into the market would even make the competition stiffer. As for Elon Musk's comments on the Model Pi, he hasn't really been forthcoming. As mentioned earlier, the company has been tight-lipped about the whole arrangement. However, there's been rumors about Apple and Google threatening to remove Twitter from their app stores. When the Tesla CEO was asked about these threats, he stated that if things ever do come to that point, he would make another phone that can accommodate his newest company. As far as prices go, we believe that the phone would cost between $800 to $1,000. It's quite a lot, but when you think of the specs, it's very understandable. As is the nature of Musk, we believe that he would most likely work towards making the phone cheaper and more available for the majority, although this might not happen in the first few years of production. As of now, we only anticipate more information on the phone from Tesla, but we have reason to believe that Tesla will take its time to release the phone.
With the Starship rocket that SpaceX is developing, we've had 2 test flights, we'll have many more this year. That vehicle is designed to make life multiplanetary. It's the first vehicle that is capable of doing that. I think we want to get that done as soon as possible.
Elon Musk unveils the ambitious plan for multiplanetary life, a vision that transcends the bounds of Earth.
The window of opportunity to make life multiplanetary and secure the future of consciousness may be open for a long time, or it may be open for a short time. That's why I started SpaceX, is to try to reverse that trend and get us back on to doing exciting things in space again.
With a surprising confidence, Elon Musk sets a 10-year target for humans to occupy the red terrain of Mars.
We're hoping to have the first humans on the moon in less than 5 years. Mars, maybe a little longer than 5 years. I'd be surprised if we don't have humans on Mars within 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we're going to aim to have a lot of humans and build a city on Mars and a base on the moon. So basically, Mars has to be completely self-sufficient in order to pass the Fermi Great Filter. The particular great filter I'm talking about is if something calamitous happens to one planet, is humanity gone or not? A lot of resources. Now, I should say that in order to pass the Fermi Great Filter of being a multi-planet species, the second planet has to be self-sustaining. So that the acid test being that if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason whatsoever, it could be mundane or serious, will Mars out or not?
Reflecting on SpaceX's turbulent history, Musk reveals that the venture teetered on the edge, facing a mere 10% chance of success.
I mean, to be clear, at the start of SpaceX, I gave us a less than 10% chance of success. I thought we'd probably, but I think if something is important enough, it's worth doing, even if you think it's going to fail. And we almost did fail. The first 3 launches of our small rocket failed. Only the 4th one launched, succeeded. And if that 4th one had failed, we would be. So it's close. So in this year, if things go well, SpaceX will do 90% of all payload to Earth. And then as Starship really takes off, SpaceX will be doing, at least based on what other companies are currently doing, which is, around 300-400 tons to orbit. SpaceX ultimately will be doing several 100,000 tons to orbit, maybe 1 million tons to orbit.
Last year, SpaceX dominated, handling a staggering 80% of all payloads destined for the orbit of our blue planet.
At this point, knock on wood, SpaceX is quite prosperous. SpaceX did about 80% of all payload to orbit last year of Earth. China did about 12%, and the rest of the world did 8%.
Drawing parallels with historical space endeavors, Musk notes the convergence of costs between the shuttle and the Saturn V expendable.
The follow-up to the shuttle, to the Saturn V was the space shuttle. Space shuttle could only go to low Earth orbit. But the aspiration was to make it reusable. But they unfortunately did not succeed in that goal. The space shuttle was so difficult to refurb that it ended up costing as much as the Saturn V. And then the primary structure of the space shuttle orbiter system, that big orange tank, it's actually the primary airframe, because it takes the load from the orbiter, the sort of airplane-looking thing, and the side boosters. So you lose that every time. The side boosters land in the ocean, and they're solid rocket boosters, so that they have to get shipped back to the factory to get solid propellant loaded in. Cut a long story short, the cost per flight of the shuttle ended up being roughly the same as a Saturn V expendable. But the shuttle had about a quarter of the payload to orbit and could not reach the moon. My religion, for lack of a better word, is one of curiosity, where we want to expand the scope and scale of consciousness on Earth and beyond Earth, and ultimately to other star systems. And in order to do that, we need to increase the number of conscious beings, and we need to advance technology such that we can have a self-sustaining city on Mars, ultimately populate the whole solar system, and then go beyond our solar system to other star systems. And therefore, we need more humans. Pretty simple.
Elon Musk emphasizes the critical role of increasing the human population for the realization of life beyond Earth's confines.
I think we will have landed on Mars. And I think we will have sent people to the moon. And maybe if we get lucky, we'll have sent people to Mars within 8 years. The key question is sort of, I think, about for civilization is, the key test perhaps for civilization is, do we make it through this Fermi Great Filter of being going from a one-planet civilization to a multi-planet civilization. So noble ideas at the start, but ultimately it was not a good design. So, and then the shuttle retired, obviously, and then we had nothing. That curve that's not a good curve, going from the moon to low Earth orbit to nothing. So that does not extrapolate to being a multi-planet species. Things that make people excited to get up in the morning and say, yes, humanity is going to do some amazing thing in space.
Sustainability on Mars becomes paramount in Musk's narrative, outlining the prerequisites for transforming into a multi-planetary species.
We want to have a spacesuit that you can walk around in, because if you're on the moon, you want to be able to walk around on the moon, walk around on Mars. So having a high mobility spacesuit that actually isn't crazy expensive, ideally, and that you can walk around in comfortably is a big deal. It's actually an important thing that needs to be developed. And ultimately made in large numbers. Because if we send, say, 1 million people to Mars, then that's 1 million spacesuits, or 1 million Mars suits that you need. So we'll have to make a lot of these things. And we're also going to launch Starlink on that flight. So I think we may have achieved consciousness, or consciousness that's capable of developing technology just in time. I find it remarkable that we are at this point in history where we are able, for the first time, to go beyond Earth, to send people. We sent people to the moon in the early 70s, but have since not gone back. I think it would be wise to not assume that it'll be open for a long time.
So,
and act now to make life multiplanetary.
Musk expresses a sense of urgency, emphasizing that the present moment offers a unique window to venture beyond the familiar boundaries of Earth.
So, that's really the key test. Do we become a self-sustaining multi-planet civilization while civilization still exists, or don't we? I think that's really the key question. I think we've got a good chance, but it's not a sure thing. That's why time is of the essence. I think we want to make Mars self-sustaining as quickly as possible. It's not just a question of getting people to Mars, but it's getting enough tonnage and equipment to Mars to enable Mars to be self-sustaining. The key test being that if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, does Mars out, or does it continue?
Well, at first, you would have to have a life support system because Mars has a low density atmosphere, only about 1% the density of Earth, and it's primarily CO2. Now, over time, you can terraform Mars. Terraform means make it like Earth, essentially. And if you warm Mars up, you will, there's a bunch of frozen CO2 that will evaporate, densify the atmosphere, and you'd actually want kind of global warming on Mars. Because Mars is about 50% further away from the sun than the Earth. So it gets about less than half the solar energy that Earth does.
The litmus test for life on Mars, according to Musk, lies in the ability to survive independently if Earth's resupply mission halts.
What's really mind-boggling is that number should increase by 50% this year. So I guess on the order of like 90% of all mass to orbit, not counting Starship. So as we start launching Starship is like roughly 100 tons to orbit with every flight. There's a path to getting Starship to do over 200 tons with full reusability. So 200 tons to useful orbit with full reusability. And yeah, it's really an incredible amount. 1,200 tons of useful load to orbit last year. Yeah, that's just astounding. So I think that really deserves a round of applause. Like wow, I mean, that's the most mind-blowing. And the rate of increase is just astonishing.
Now, these numbers will actually look very small in the future. In order to build a city on Mars, we'll need to be kind of in the million-ton to orbit range. So maybe a little higher, ideally a little higher, but it's sort of, if you just try to get things to the right order of magnitude, like not trying to get to an exact number, but try to get the order of magnitude right. I think it's on the order, it's roughly 1 million tons to Earth orbit. That'll get you roughly 200,000 tons to the surface of Mars. So roughly, approximately 20% of whatever you get to Earth orbit, you can get to the surface of Mars. And figure like maybe we need at least 1 million tons of useful load to the surface of Mars for it to become self-sustaining.
The evidence suggests that it is most likely that Mars had liquid water. Well, just over time, the solar system cooled. So Earth used to be much hot. Like in the very early Earth was like molten rock. So really almost nothing could survive in the beginning. We were just a ball of lava. We're still mostly a ball of lava. We're like creme brulee. Like there's a thin crust, and it's mushy rock very hot mushy rock underneath. And technically, that rock is in a semi-solid state. But as soon as it gets to a low pressure, like pops out of the ocean, you have a volcano, obviously, with lava.
Yeah.
So it's at surface ambient pressure, we're basically covered in liquid rock.
Are you aware?
We're a thin crust on liquid rock.
Elon Musk concludes with a hopeful outlook, expressing his desire that the plan for multiplanetary life will materialize within the next decade.
That self-sustaining threshold is actually a very tough threshold to meet, because even if you're missing a tiny thing, then eventually that Mars will die out. So you've got to be able to not just build, for example, computer chips, but you need to be able to build computer chip factories. Because if you can't build computer chip factories, the factory that you do build will eventually break down, and then you will have no chips, and then that's it. So it's kind of like a long sea voyage, where if you're just missing vitamin C, yeah, you'll cruise on for a while, but then your teeth will fall out, and so that was a real problem in the old days. Anyway, it's quite a high threshold, and like Mars is a fixer-upper of a planet. Needs some work, but so it's not like you can just run around outdoors and fish or live off the land. You can't live off the land on Mars. So it's really quite a lot of work that's required to make that work.
It appears highly likely that Mars had liquid oceans, albeit a long time ago. There's a lot of ice. So Mars is covered in ice. And now the ice is then covered in dust for the mostly, except at the poles. So there's a lot of ice.
This is the long-term goal. This is what we want Mars to look like: is starships coming and going, an incredible, beautiful Mars city, and a flourishing civilization on Mars. Ultimately, we can transform Mars into an Earth-like planet with terraforming. Just needs to be warmed up, really, and then it could be ultimately an Earth-like planet, and we could bring the life from Earth. We could extend life from Earth to Mars. And really, it has to be humans. We can bring all the creatures with us, and we can ensure that life on Earth continues on Mars, even after Earth becomes unlivable in the distant future. Start to look at humanity as though we are a plague on the surface of the Earth, as though humanity is a bad thing.
No, I think I agree with you that the future most likely has abundance.
Humanity will go extinct if we don't replenish our ranks with new generations, for they are the guardians of our future survival.
It's not going to destroy life on Earth. It's not going to destroy humanity, but it will create hardship if you change the climate over many decades.
If we don't make new humans, we won't have humanity.
really want to emphasize that it's important to have children and to create the new generation. And as simple as it sounds, if people do not have children, there is no new generation.
Elon Musk underscores the importance of human existence in advancing civilization. Yet our birth rates continue to dwindle with each passing year.
I'm very much in favor of humanity expanding and creating a bright and exciting future for the world. But fundamental to the furtherance of human civilization is having humans. As simple and basic as that sounds. And every year I look at the birth rates and I'm like, it's a bit depressing because birth rates seem to decline every year.
Musk emphasizes the necessity of incentivizing childbirth and making it easier for women to embrace motherhood, lest our species face an uncertain fate.
And I think that perhaps my biggest advice to leaders, to government leaders, and to the people in general would be to make sure to have children to create the new generation. And I think any incentives that can be done to incent the new generation, to make it easier for women to have children and to support the children, I think would be very wise.
Neglecting the decline in birth rates could lead to a catastrophic scenario where our population dwindles to a mere fraction of its current size within a few generations.
This is so fundamental, and I really can't emphasize that enough. If you don't have a new generation, there is no new generation. Or with current birth rates, I think it may be birth rate is maybe half of the replacement rate. And what that means is in 3 generations, the population will be roughly 1/10 of its current size. In 3 generations, maybe 4 generations.
Complacency and entitlement are luxuries we cannot afford in the face of our dwindling population. We must strive for abundance while ensuring our survival.
We shouldn't be complacent about the future. Complacency and entitlement are not a recipe for success. But the most likely outcome is one of abundance of goods and services. That is certainly where we're headed.
The global population is on the precipice of decline, prompting the urgent need to preserve our cultural identities amidst this demographic shift.
Well, I think one can't depend on other countries for immigration. And in fact, if you look at, say, the population worldwide, and this is almost everywhere in the world, and it seems to be a function of how once a country industrializes, once a country urbanizes, the population immediately starts to decline. So one could say, for example, like China could not possibly solve its population with immigration, because if China is currently tracking to be maybe lose 40% of its population every generation, that would be 700 million, 800 million people, or roughly 700 million people. It's a lot, basically. You'd have to have the entire United States immigrate there twice every generation to simply maintain numbers, just for China. So immigration, there simply aren't enough numbers in immigration. And I think there is value to a culture. We don't want cultures. We don't want Japan to disappear. We don't want Italy as a culture to disappear. We don't want France as a culture to disappear. I think we have to maintain the sort of reasonable cultural identity of the various countries, or they simply will not be those countries. Italy is the people of Italy. The buildings are there, but really, what is Italy? Italy is the people of Italy. And I speak as someone who is very much an environmentalist. I believe in building a sustainable future for the world. I think that there are very few people who, as an individual, who have done more than I have to help the environment with electric cars and solar and batteries to create a sustainable energy future, because we absolutely need a sustainable energy future. But there is an aspect of the environmental movement that I think has gone too far.
Alarmingly low birth rates threaten the very fabric of humanity, with some countries facing the prospect of losing half their population with each passing generation.
I do think that the birth rate is too low for humans, as I'm always going on about that.
Longevity, baby. I'm solving it with longevity. I'm going to keep people alive longer.
Okay, well...
And robots and AI.
Sure. But, I mean, it just... the current situation
is grim.
Dramatic.
It's grim,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of countries are... if you look at, say Korea...
And Italy.
They're losing roughly half their population per generation.
The pendulum of the environmental movement has swung too far, vilifying humanity itself and blurring the line between stewardship and self-annihilation.
So, said for me, I think I am objectively one of the world's leading environmentalists in terms of doing things.
I would say so.
Like, I'm an environmentalist who does things. I'm of action, not talk. I act. So I feel I can say, as an environmentalist, that the environmentalist movement has gone too far. And in that, in the natural extension of the environmentalist movement, if you go too far, you start to look at humanity as a bad thing. And in fact, there are some people who think and say explicitly that, in fact, there was on the front page of the New York Times, there was a guy who said, there are 8 billion people on Earth. It would be better if there were none, which is crazy.
Despite misconceptions about overpopulation, maintaining a steady human population is vital for the balance of our ecosystems and the sustainability of our planet.
I'm concerned that, like, a lot of people think that the planet is overpopulated, and that's one of the things contributing to a low birth rate. In fact, some people I've encountered think they're basically being martyrs for not having kids, and it's just not true. I think we should take the position that we actually have a civic responsibility to have kids, to at least keep the human population constant. Ideally, we should grow it, but we should at least not have population collapse, which is what we currently have.
The environmental consequences of our actions, such as carbon emissions, pose a grave threat to our planet's stability, exacerbating climate change and imperiling our collective future.
Objectively, this is true. So if you say, like, there's really only one thing that matters from an environmental standpoint for carbon, which is that we are taking billions, eventually trillions of tons of carbon from very deep under the earth and transferring it to the atmosphere and oceans. That's actually really all that matters, is taking vast amounts of carbon from underground where it's buried and moving it into the atmosphere by burning it. And if you do that for long enough, eventually you will get to climate change. Now, I think the climate change alarm is somewhat overblown in the short term. It's still a concern in the long term, but I think it's exaggerated in the short term.
Great.
Now, I have to try to thread the needle here between what is pragmatic and what is sensible, what really matters and what doesn't matter. What really matters is that over the long term, over the course of the next several decades, that we gradually reduce how many millions and billions of tons of carbon that we move from underground and to the atmosphere, because we're running sort of a climate experiment that is dangerous. But I also don't think that I think of it as a fundamental civilizational risk. I think my message is, like, I think much more pragmatic and I think correct and sensible. And I don't think we should demonize oil and gas. I think we should say, look, that is obviously necessary in the short term and the medium term too, and it'll take several decades to become sustainable. So I think if we just, without getting too worried about it, seek to have a sustainable energy future gradually, then that's what will happen. And so I think that some of the environmentalist movement is part of what is causing people to lose hope in the future. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we should have hope in the future. We should be excited about the future, and we should build the future we want. This is not something you should import from America. Please don't import the woke mind virus. It's bad. So essentially that, to summarize maybe the woke mind virus, it consists of creating very divisive identity politics. So it actually amplifies mind virus, in my view, amplifies racism, amplifies, frankly, sexism, and all the isms. And while claiming to do the opposite, it actually divides people and makes them sort of hate each other, and it makes people hate themselves. And it's also anti-meritocratic. It's not merit-based. So you want to have people succeed based on how hard they work and the talents, not who they are, whether they're man, woman, what race or gender, that stuff is all it's an artificial mental civil that is created. And it's not, and let me tell you, it's no fun. Okay. It is like woke mind virus and fun are incompatible. There's no fun in that. No joy. Woke mind virus is all about condemning people instead of celebrating people. Like when in the woke, it just doesn't celebrate. It's all about condemning and being divisive and being just, I think it's just evil, frankly.
I'm very pro-human, I'm very pro-civilization. I'm in favor of humanity and our collective consciousness expanding on Earth and going beyond Earth, being a multi-planet species, a spacefaring civilization, and being out there among the stars and finding out the nature of the universe. Like all the things that seems like to me an exciting thing, something you can get really excited about, is you can get excited. Like, we want to have ideas that make you look forward to waking up in the morning, look forward to the day, look forward to the future. And so you have to say, what excites you about the future? What moves your heart about the future? What makes you say, like, yes, I'm glad about what will happen in the future? That's what we must focus on. And that's why we have to have a new generation. We've got to build and we've got to grow. And like I said, we understand the nature of this beautiful universe that we find ourselves in and the meaning of life, or even what questions to ask about the meaning of life. Let us explore this wondrous creation and have a good time doing it. Well, I should say, like, to be clear on immigration overall, I'm very much in favor of legal immigration. I think that generally, one should welcome to a country anyone who is willing to work hard and is honest, has high integrity, and will add to any given country. If somebody is an asset to the country, why not have them join? That's obviously a great thing to do. So I think it's good actually to have an increase in legal immigration, and
legal with paper, with
just some approval process, but with a simple requirement that, look, if somebody is going to add to a country, like just really hardworking and high integrity, let them in. I think that's great. But if it's illegal immigration and there's no filter, well, how do you know who's coming in? You don't know. So you have to have some basis for saying somebody should come in or not come in. And my argument is, like, it should be a very simple basis. Will they add to the country? Will they be a productive part of the economy? And do they admire the culture? Do they want to join because of the culture? Then that's great. But if there's no process for that, then you don't know. I think at least some number of the people that come in will not be necessarily, and I want to be careful because my words will be misconstrued. I'm not saying all illegal immigrants are, I think probably perhaps most of them are good. But there will be some, if there's no process for reviewing, not at all, then how can you say that everyone who is an illegal immigrant is going to be honest and hardworking? You can't say that because you simply don't know. So I want to be clear. Top line, pro-immigration, but let's increase legal immigration, but we should stop illegal immigration. I think this is just logical. Actually, I want the prosperity of Italy, and I want the prosperity of every country. I want the prosperity of humanity as a whole. And like I said, I want us to have an exciting future where we're fired up about what's going to happen and really excited. And I think Italy is a great place to invest. It's a great country. But I do want to emphasize that I do worry about the low birth rate. And if a company is to invest in Italy, they're like, well, you have to say, like, will there be enough people to work there? It's a simple question. If the workforce is declining, then who will work at the company? Well, you can think of artificial intelligence as, this is perhaps the